Well, happy, beautiful day. Dr. Bobrakowski here, wellness transformation expert. And today I'm going to talk about the health concerns that wrapped up 2024 and lead us into 2025. Not only identify what they are, but give you some strategies from a functional medicine point of view of how we can solve them. Functional medicine is something I'm very passionate about. I've taught over 10,000 hours of seminars on 6 different continents over the last 3 decades. I've also got over 30 years of clinical practice treating every category of patient you could see, from the elite to the critically ill, and everything in between. So we're going to look at cancer, and I added the word turbo cancer, and we'll see why. We'll talk about the use of pig organs for organ transplant. We'll talk about globesity. Yes, the world is getting fat and the problems with ultra-processed foods. Talk about Ozempic, the pros and cons. We'll talk about gene splicing. And then finally, artificial intelligence in health, as well as some biohacks. So when we start looking at what's available to us now, more information, easier, we can use AI. I happen to like Grok. That's Elon Musk's AI version. There's several out there. I actually asked 4 different AI platforms, what are the top health concerns? And these that I'm sharing today were the consensus from each of the lists. So turbo cancer is a phenomena of aggressive cancers. They said that it wasn't even heard of, or that term didn't exist prior to COVID-19 and the COVID-19 vaccinations. And we'll share the data about how they may be linked. This is on Rumble. You can go look it up. It might be worth looking at. And the question is the COVID vaccine causing or contributing to turbo cancers? So when you start looking at this, these vaccines were rushed. They certainly went through rushed testing, and there were contaminants within it. They were actually genetic contaminants. So when you start looking at this, it says the DNA impurities exceed the permitted value by several hundred times, in some cases more than 500 times. So several hundred times the level of contamination, up to 500 times or more. We don't want to inject contaminated things, period, end of story, right? That bypasses all of our defenses. Dr. John Campbell got a lot of notoriety during these last couple of years. He was freely speaking his mind. He got censored a number of times. He's a really good educator. He's learned to play the dance or dance the dance around censorship. But here he was interviewing a guy from Australia where he was talking about the cancer risk and the genetic issues and modifying genes and what they're already seeing. And now this is from a peer-reviewed reference, 2024. The P53 gene is what they call the tumor suppressor gene. And now we know that the spike proteins from the shots inhibit the tumor suppressor gene. So if you're not suppressing tumors, what are they likely doing? Well, I would suggest that they're growing. So this PubMed study shows that there is a significant excess mortality seen in all different types of cancer. And then you look at this before and after in this very short timeline. And Ryan Cole submitted this on his Rumble Talk, but he says, you know what? You start looking at this timeline, and the progression of that cancer normally would have taken many, many months or even years, and it happened in a matter of weeks. So what is fueling these cancers is the question. If you go on my YouTube, I've got videos about unwinding the perfect storm of cancer, preventing cancer, possibly even beating it, or blending natural therapies with conventional where indicated. But the perfect storm of cancer: low oxygen, low nutrients, high acid, chronic inflammation, immune suppression, secondary to chronic distress. There are literally hundreds of thousands of studies supporting that that is the environment that sets up cancer. When we start looking at organ transplant, there's over 100,000 people on organ transplant waiting lists, and kidney is going to be the top one. And diabetes is bad for kidneys. It's bad for nerves. It's bad for blood vessels. It's bad for the heart pain. It's bad for all the tissues of the body. And reality is there's more than 420 million people on the globe that have diabetes. So we're talking about pig organ transplants, and kidney is number one, but heart is number two. And you start looking at this, And what they can do is they can take the heart out of a pig, very similar to human heart, same with kidneys, same with liver, same with lungs, same even with pancreas they're doing, and they can digest out the genetic material. And then essentially they can piggyback it with the individual's own stem cells. And in animal studies, they're starting to get that to function. So really, it's just a matrix of an organ infused with the stem cells that ultimately makes it work. How close are we to getting to, all the organs that we need? Well, I would hope that we're getting closer with each day, but I don't really know. So the rule is it's easier to stay out of trouble than get out of trouble. And that could be the rule with obesity. And I'll show you that now, that even our fat cells have memory. So once they are expanded by obesity, they keep that memory for a period of time. But eating less and exercising more is not the full story for a lot of different reasons. And we can start out with the food environment. Food is grown in an organic environment. It has to develop an immune system. It's a stronger plant, and it gives us more levels of nutrients. Our emotional state matters when we're eating. The amount of nutritional balance, satiety, are we hungry? It determines if we have enough nutrition to basically run our show. You start looking at hormones. Insulin is critical. Thyroid is critical. The stress hormones are critical. Blood sugar, which causes insulin spikes. You can't store fat without insulin, and on and on. And then finally, we start even looking like at the gut bacteria and their role, and even how much lean tissue we have. So many things come into play here. If we were to start looking at hormones, we want to have better liver function, better thyroid function, better insulin function. We don't want to have problems with our gut, and we want to keep our stress moderate to low in order to burn fat very, very effectively. And there's these whole new categories of compounds in the environment called obesogens that are absolutely proven to increase body fat storage. And you look at all the sources, they're universal in the environment. So likely all of us are exposed to some obesogens every single day. And then you start looking at what big food is doing. It turns out that the scientists from big tobacco said, well, we made cigarettes addictive. That increased our sales. What if we made food addictive? And we know very, very likely that they put chemicals in it besides just sugar that made people want to eat these foods again and again and again and again and again. And so kind of simple, right? If it's in a package, you don't want to eat it. Michael Pollan has his food rules. He says if it's from a plant that God made, that's okay. But if it's in a plant that man made, then you probably don't want to eat that food. 94% of rats prefer processed sugar to cocaine. That's a peer-reviewed medical study. If you're not avoiding sugar, you likely are feeding that addiction. By the way, I have a really good friend, Camilla Hiller, who's having a sugar-free cooking class this year. So you start looking, and 73% of the standard American diet, modern American diet, the acronyms there, SAD and MAD, are from ultra-processed foods. And we know that this increases a number of illnesses, probably really related to all of the chronic illnesses, but especially type 2 diabetes and obesity. And then you look at that graphic from the peer-reviewed literature. There's so many different mechanisms by which they know that this food is causing problems. And notice there's a line going directly to the brain. Why? Because these actually hijack our brain chemistry. And as Kelly Brownell of Yale University said years ago, food in this country is engineered to be addictive. So Jack LaLanne, he was with one of those fitness experts, maybe that was the 80s. Jack said, exercise is king, nutrition is queen. Put them together, you have a kingdom. Absolutely. You want to eat right, drink right, think right, move right, sleep right, poop right, talk right. I had a bunch there, but eat, move, sleep certainly are the big three. And then Jack's quote, if God made it, it's okay. If man made it, throw it away. So what should I eat? How about real food, clean food, not too much, not too often, every color, every day, in a way that honors your physiology, your genetics, and your body goals, mostly plants. Multiple Nobel Prizes in those nutrition recommendations. Now, what about Ozempic? Some people seem to be doing okay with it, but there are people that are not. There are people that seem to have almost an intestinal paralysis. There's so many different places in the body for these receptors. I'll show you these pictures later. But some people lose their ability to experience joy, not just from their food, but from other things that are normally joyful in their life. Peter Attia, he's got a nice book. He's got a nice podcast. He says that he's shocked and alarmed by the amount of lean mass loss that they're seeing. And lean mass is critical for healthy aging. So if you're breaking down the lean, you're taking steps closer to the grave. So, you may look better, but if your body's breaking down, that may not be where you want to go. So you start looking at all these sites in the body that have these GLP-1 receptors, and you can see it's the heart, the brain, the liver, the pancreas, the gut, etc. So it's not just acting on one aspect of physiology. And then here's some fairly recent data. I think this was a December 2024 publication. They now know that fat cells have what they're calling epigenetic memory. So if you stretch them, it's almost like seeing that, the Matrix was whatever it was, the red pill, I think it was. Once your mind expands, it doesn't contract. Kind of similar fat cells. Once you let them get too big, they don't go back to where they were before. So you're going to have to be extra diligent to not gain it back. So when we start looking at genetic theories, there was a 520-page report published by the House of Representatives that they said that this virus looks like it was genetically modified, and there has been genetic modification, for decades at this point. Now, where can we make good use of this? This was published in 2023, but they could actually inject genetic material into ears with people that had genetic hearing loss. And of one of these circumstances, people would actually get their hearing back. So, if that's one advancement, will there be more? I'm confident that there will be. When we start looking at artificial intelligence in healthcare, I think there's a lot of potential there. And keep in mind, people that are writing the programs, they're going to want to support their interests. So we know that big tech and big pharma seem to be going together. I would imagine that they'd have some natural options within this, but they're certainly going to be biased towards the pharmaceuticals. When you start looking at AI, in time, it should be more accurate, it should be faster, it should be more consistent, and it should therefore enhance the patient experience. But we got to be more protective of the data. Whoever programs it is going to have some level of bias. There are going to be people in healthcare that are going to be displaced. And certainly there's a trust issue that needs to be created. So I and some of my chiropractic colleagues are creating a natural medicine, a functional medicine AI called VivoraLife.com. I'm going to encourage you to go to VivoraLife.com, subscribe. You'll start getting emails. We're looking for a soft launch in March. We're going to have a number of ways where you can get the best health information and the best products, automatic, and there will be in time chatbots and other things that are available with all the wisdom of functional medicine. And then finally, biohacking. I like this definition by Dave Asprey. I think he coined the term. It certainly claims to have the art and science of changing the environment around you and inside of you so you have more control over your own biology. So how do you control it around you? Well, how about things like red light? How about things like heat? How about things like cold plunge? How about vibration plate? How about changing the environment inside of you? That's all about energy, nutrition, modulating the inflammatory process, healing and repair. And all these things, we have a better understanding of how to move forward with it. So, here were the top 7 biohacks according to one website. Number 1 is looking at what foods you're intolerant to. So it's very, very difficult to have an intolerance to red meat, salt, and water. That's the most extreme carnivore shift that I've seen. I put people on very restrictive elimination diets when they have extreme gut problems. I used to put them on like lettuce and lamb is what I would say, but red meat, salt, and water, some people reset as fast as 3 days. Give yourself 7 to 10 days. I think you might see a mega difference. Get good quality red meat, grass-fed, organic. Rethinking your coffee. Well, reishi infused coffee, turbocharged coffee is now a trend. In 2018, they said it was going to be one of the top trends in the world. Medicinal mushrooms, over a $30 billion a year market. Go to bettercoffeeshop.com, take my one box challenge. But full disclosure, I've invested in a reishi infused coffee company. I love it. I think it's the best thing out there. Try the one box challenge. I think you're going to find that it nourishes your body, mind, and spirit. What about working out? People think, oh, I need to, budget so much time and have certain equipment. No, you don't. Sprint in place for 20 seconds, take a 10-second recovery, do that 8 rounds. That's called the Tabata protocol. You could do jumping jacks, you could do burpees, you could do push-ups, you could do sit-ups, you could do squats, you could do whatever you want. But 8 rounds, 20 seconds all out, 10-second recovery. So in 4 minutes, you get enough to advance all of your physiology. Embracing cold. I've done over 2,000 cold plunges. First one was in the 1990s. It definitely does something to the body, shocks the heck out of it. I'm going to say learn to play with temperature. I really love my infrared sauna. I can't say I love cold. Did it because it was good for me. What about breathing? You'd be surprised how many people are very poor breathers. We want to breathe with our diaphragm. We want to breathe into our belly. We want to fill up all of our lungs, top and bottom, and get that diaphragm excursion, which massages our organs. Wim Hof has a deep breathing method. There's a number of people that do. Prioritize good sleep. I like sleep trackers. I like this one. This one's the Ultra Human. I'll bring it closer to the camera. That one tells me how many sleep cycles I got and how many full cycles. And then finally, what about mental health? Probably a few things better for us than gratitude. So be thankful, right? As Tony Robbins said, everybody's got something to be thankful for. You might just wake up and say, thank God my feet don't smell as bad. Or thank God I'm congested. I can't smell my stinky feet, right? That's the funny way of looking at that. So there you have it. Those are the top 7 global health concerns. My website, thedrbob.com. Reach out if you have any questions. Vivoralife.com, our new AI project. Sign up for our new email. And as always, I'm Dr. Bob Rakowski, absolutely knowing that we can all be happy, healthy, and successful.